Following the Great Crash, one video game system was born and prevailed among all the others. Let's take a look at the Nintendo Entertainment System.
What's up, guys? So today we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Nintendo Entertainment System. First we're going to take a look at the history of the system, then we're going to take a look at what's inside of it, basically what chips is in there. There's really not too much inside of a Nintendo. Third, we're going to go ahead and look at the console itself, just kind of get a 360 view around it. And then fourth, we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of gameplay, just kind of show people what the games look like on it, which I'm sure everybody here knows what it looks like. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look, guys.
The NES story starts in the arcades of the early 1980s. Nintendo's success with games such as Donkey Kong led to Nintendo's president, Hiroshi Yamauchi, to call for a game console based on arcade machines like Galaxian and Donkey Kong. Originally, it was supposed to be a 16-bit home computer with floppy drives and a keyboard, but Yamauchi rejected this plan. He wanted a cheaper system that people didn't need to be technophiles to be able to use. At this point, Masuki Yorama, and I'm sorry if I'm getting the pronunciations of these names wrong, they're a little hard, began the design by October of 1982 and had a test model or prototype built. However, no programming tools were available, so programming started on an NEC PC8001 computer, so basically the PC88, connected to a whole bunch of LEDs, a grid of LEDs really, to create the graphics for the games. The project was named Gamecom, but this name was actually changed to Famicom with a suggestion by Yorama's wife. Now, the Famicom was heavily influenced by the ColecoVision. Nintendo saw how much better the games looked on the Coleco as opposed to like an Atari 2600 and that. So they really thought that they would be competing with Coleco in the future and wanted to come up with something that could produce arcade quality graphics. The console was released on July 15th, 1983, only in Japan, with 3 games being released with the system at the time: Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong Jr., and Popeye. The console released with some issues. Due to some manufacturing defects, there were some issues with the chips inside that caused the system to crash. But after a recall, the Famicom enjoyed success, much success, and by 1984 it was the best-selling console in Japan. Also in 1984, Nintendo agreed to have third-party publishers make games on it. These first 2 publishers were Namco and Hudson Soft. They agreed to a deal for a 30% fee to Nintendo for console licensing and production cost. And honestly, this was an industry standard in the video game market up until 2010. Now, Nintendo had its sights on North America. However, they were still skeptical of going into that market alone. And in 1983, Nintendo started negotiations with Atari to market the Famicom under Atari's name in North America. The deal was supposed to be signed at the CES show in 1983. However, Atari saw a Nintendo Donkey Kong cartridge being used and displayed in a Coleco display. And basically at that point, they nixed the deal with Nintendo.
Okay, whoa. I'm going to go ahead and stop right here. So let's think if this deal would have went through with Atari. The implications it would have had in the gaming history today. I mean, it really would have been kind of crazy because Nintendo probably wouldn't have been the superstar that it is today, which means that Sony wouldn't have worked with Nintendo on the Super NES add-on CD system, which probably wouldn't have been the PS1. There's so many different things, and then Atari actually making that deal and making all that money and becoming a super giant in the gaming industry again instead of basically faltering away. Man, just think of the implications of all that. And Trammell not buying Atari. Oh yeah, there's definitely, it's like a whole alternate universe, guys. Bizarro fucking retro world. All right, let's get back to the history.
Now at that point, Nintendo decided to go for it on their own. The first idea was to package it as the Nintendo Advanced Video Game System, or AVS. This would include a repackaged Famicom, a keyboard, a cassette data recorder, a wireless joystick, and a basic ROM cartridge. Nintendo did decide against this as it would be too expensive for regular consumers, and with the game crash, they were worried that the console and computer just wouldn't sell. So Nintendo first used the Famicom hardware in North America in the Versus arcade cabinets. This was basically just a test to see how gamers would react to what was really a home video game system in this cabinet. It was a huge success. The Versus system became the highest grossing arcade cab by 1985. With this, Nintendo went ahead and designed the North American Famicom system. The system would have a front-loading assembly that resembled a VCR for user familiarity. It also helped prevent ESD, or electronic static discharge, in dry climates like Nevada and Arizona. The new case was designed by Lance Barr. At this point, the Nintendo AVS system was renamed to the Nintendo Entertainment System. The change came due to Nintendo wanting to distance itself from the video game market, essentially after the crash. And that's why it's not called the Nintendo Video Game System. It released in 2 test markets, in New York City in October of 1985 and in Los Angeles in February 1986. It was very successful in those markets. So Nintendo decided to release the NES nationwide on September 27, 1986. Now, as technology advanced, obviously game consoles are going to be discontinued. Now, the NES was discontinued in 1995, basically giving it a 9-year run in the North American market. Now, the Famicom, on the other hand, was discontinued in the year 2000. So that really gave that console a 17-year run on the market in Japan. So my last video, I said the Atari with its 15-year run was the longest console. Apparently I was mistaken. It actually is the Famicom at 17 years. Over the course of its lifespan and all the different iterations of it, the Famicom, the Nintendo, it did sell about 62 million units.
What's it like to play the Nintendo Entertainment System? The Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power.
Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to look at here is the motherboard of the inside of the NES. Now the one I'm showing here is the NTSC version of it. Really the PAL version is not much different. It just uses a different CPU. Well, it's basically the same CPU, but it runs at a different speed. Now the CPU is on the left hand side there, while the PPU is on the right hand side of it. And the RAM is towards the bottom, and then the NES 10 chip is that little chip down on the right hand bottom corner down there, almost by the RF circuitry. And let's take a closer look at these chips here and see what they do. So the first chip we're going to look at here is the CPU of the NES. Now there's 2 different CPUs that were used. One is the Rico 2A03 and the other one is the Rico RP207. Now the A03 chip, that's for the NTSC systems, and then the 2A07 chip, that is actually for PAL. Now they both actually run at 1.79 megahertz, but the difference is the PAL version runs at 50 hertz while NTSC version runs at 60 hertz. So typical PAL NTSC thing, no different there. Now the thing with this chip is it's basically a what we can say is a MOS 6502 chip that Nintendo basically stole the design from MOS and left out some things on the chip, like the binary coded decimal mode, so they couldn't get sued by MOS Technology for patent or copyright infringement. But yeah, they basically took the 6502 chip and made it their own to be able to put into the NES. And the CPU actually had the sound chip built into it as well, so it also can produce sound through this chip. So it's not just the CPU, but it's also basically a sound chip in here that produces the sound for the system as well. Okay, so the next chip we're going to look at is what's called the Picture Processing Unit, or the PPU. Now, essentially what this is, it's basically the graphics chip for the NES. Now, what it has in it is 2 kilobytes of external RAM, so it can actually store like background graphics and that stuff into the actual external RAM of the system. It also has 288 bytes of internal DRAM for sprite attribute storage, so it can actually store the sprites. 32 bytes of internal SRAM for palette storage, so for the colors and that type of thing. It has either the 8x8 or 8x16 selectable sprites. It has 2 external 4 kilobyte tile sets with the space of being 256 tiles in each. It can hold up to 64 sprites at a time on the screen, and it has 25 colors simultaneously on the screen as well, from a hardware color palette of 54 colors. Resolution for the NTSC version is 256 by 224, while resolution for PAL is 256 by 240. And really nothing too special here, guys. These 2 RAM chips are basically your 2 kilobytes of RAM that's on the Nintendo's motherboard right here. So that's what we're looking at right here. Alrighty guys, and the last chip we're going to look at here is what's called the CIC, or better known as the 10NES chip. It's basically the lockout chip for the Nintendo to check to make sure that it's a licensed game being put into the console, and if not, it won't play. It'll just recycle the CPU at a rate at 1 megahertz. So that's where you get that flashing power light on the actual Nintendo. Like say if your 72 pin connector is not working correctly, or if you put a counterfeit Nintendo game in, that's what will happen. It'll actually just keep resetting the CPU and it won't allow you to play the game. But basically that's what this is. Now the actual chip itself is a Sharp 4-bit SM590 microcontroller. So what this is it's basically a chip, a microcontroller programmed with the code inside of it. So kind of like you do with a Raspberry Pi nowadays, like the Pico Pis, you can put code into it, and what it does is it reads the other chip on the cartridge, and if those two don't match, like a lock and a key, then it won't allow you to play the game. And really guys, that's about it on the motherboard. Now there are a few other chips, but a lot of them are like buffer chips and logic gates and other things like that. So I mean, they're important to the motherboard and to the system, but I'm not going to talk about every chip that's on the board, just the major ones here. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at an actual Nintendo Entertainment System now.
What will the future bring from Nintendo? More hits like The Legend of Zelda. Sports hits like ice hockey. Nintendo has the most video game hits like Hogan's Alley and Donkey Kong Classics, and more like Excite Bike and RC Pro-Am. And you can play them only on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power.
What's up guys? So this is the Nintendo here. I'm sure everybody's seen one of these. I know like everybody from like 2 years old all the way up to like people that are in their 70s and 80s now know what a Nintendo is. But anyway, it's that front loader feature to make it kind of look like a VCR, you know, and it was kind of safe because of the ESD issues that they have in America, in the hot Southwest. So you got the power button here, set button here, your 2 controller plug in there. Then you got your composite out and your single channel mono audio out there. You got your power that plugs in here with the adapter, and here's your RF section. So you plug in your RF adapter there, and then this is your channel select. Nothing on this side really, but this here, unfortunately, they never did anything with this. Now, it was in the works for Nintendo to launch the disc system like they had in Japan, but they never did. So that's why this is here. There's actually an expansion port underneath here, but yeah, they never used it. But anyway, guys, let's go ahead and get this thing set up, and then we'll play some games as well. And this is what I'm going to be using for our games. It is the Nintendo Power Pack. So this is my flash cart. I basically got like every Nintendo game on here. So we'll go ahead and give that a shot. So let's go ahead and power this thing up. So here's the Nintendo, guys. And then here's the controller as well. I didn't show that. So basically they took this design from the design of the Nintendo Game & Watch. And I like it. I've always liked the D-pad design. I think that's why controllers kind of went to that for, God, what, 2 decades before they really had like the analog sticks. So pretty cool there. Let's go ahead and get this thing fired up. So we'll open it up and put the power pack, or the pack, inside, as they would say. Alright, there it is in. Just hit the power button and it boots up. So since Donkey Kong was like the first game to really be released on the system, Donkey Kong, Junior Donkey Kong, and Pac-Man, or Popeye actually, let's go ahead and load up Donkey Kong. And honestly, the NES's version of Donkey Kong, all their arcade versions of every game, even like Dick Dug and everything they got on here, is just pretty cool. So, Donkey Kong. Alright guys, so we're going to try one more game. Let's see, what should we play? I think I'll do one of my favorites from back in the day. Alright guys, so loading up RC Pro-Am. Yes, I love this game. I think I was like in junior high back when this came out. And man, we was just tearing this game up all the time playing. Alright guys, so that brings us to the end of this video here. So the NES has always had a special place in my heart. It was really the second video game system that I had. I had the Atari 2600 and then the NES. And I just, so many memories, my friends coming over, me going over to their house and playing, and Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and ice hockey, and I mean just so many memories that I have from that system. But I did want to go ahead and thank some of my subscribers. I do see you guys out there. I did get a few more subs this week, so spread the word. Let people know that I'm out there trying to hit that goal of 100 subs by the end of the summer. That would be great. I'm going to keep pushing this content.
I got plenty of systems behind me to take a look at, and then after that I'll probably start doing game reviews. I'll also be doing projects with these. Like I said, I was thinking about doing all the AV mods on every one of these systems that use RF. That way I have a nice clean signal, and just kind of showing you guys how to do that stuff. And then I'll get into more computer stuff. I know I'm just kind of concentrating on consoles now. I have plenty of computers. I have Amigas, Apples, Commodores, Atari 8-bit computers. So there's plenty of content to come up, guys. So just subscribe and click that like button and that bell too for me, all right? Alrighty, guys. You guys have a great one. Peace out.